hopefully you enjoyed your lunch. Now it's time to get on to the dessert because would you like to make 30 million euros? I'd love to. I think we'd all love to, which is why it is my pleasure to introduce Michiel, who is here to explain how they were able to do it via CRO. Michiel, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Hope you enjoyed that lunch time as well. Hope you're ready to go a bit more into the details of how to use conversion rate optimization, so CRO, and I'm also going to explain you how we use that to manage 30 million euros in revenue just last year. So my name is Michiel. I'm the CMO. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Quideo. Quideo is a startup working and operating in Spain and in France. And today I'm going to tell you a bit more about how we're using conversion rate optimization in our specific niche, because I'm going to also explain a bit more about the specific industry that we're in, because we're not in the typical industry that one relates to when we're talking about marketing, but there's a huge potential in our specific niche. And I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks so to see how you can also implement CRO strategies in your marketing campaign. So first of all, why is CRO, why is conversion rate optimization so important, and why does it need to be the cornerstone of your digital marketing strategy? Well, not many companies nowadays, and especially in the startup industry, are using CRO strategies to scale their business to the next level. And I think there's a huge potential there to increase your marketing strategies and marketing results by using these examples. So first of all, just put in. Yeah.
Sorry, just quickly. I don't think the slides are playing. So
Okay, great.
there we go. Yeah, so it just updated there. So yeah, just whatever you done there, it wasn't updating before, but looks good now.
Okay, no, I stopped. Let me just share the screen again then.
Fantastic.
Okay, let me just share the entire screen so there's no problem there.
Mm-hmm. And I'll let you know if it's showing correctly on my side as well. There we go. Beautiful. Wonderful. Take it away.
Okay, so going back to the beginning, again, hope you enjoyed that lunch break. As I said before, my name is Michiel. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Quideo, startup operating in Spain and France. And today I'm going to show you a bit more about how we use conversion rate optimization to scale our marketing and business goals. So first of all, right, why is conversion rate optimization so important? Why does it need to be the cornerstone of every company's marketing strategies? Well, let's first start by explaining what we actually do at Quideo, and then how we use conversion rate optimization. So in general, in Europe, we're facing a very big problem. And the problem that we're facing is the global aging of the population. So on the left, you can see the situation in the countries indicated in red, which is where the situation is most critical. And as you can also see, right, from the pyramid, so in Germany, for instance, in 60 years ago, Germany had a very young population. So what's happening now? Well, that population is getting older and older and older. And this is just a picture of Germany, right? So as you can see, the pyramid is going to be completely upside down by 2060. And this is a problem that we're facing in all of the countries in Europe and also in the rest of the world, except for Latin America, which has a younger audience. But in most countries in Europe, this is the situation, right? So the average age of people living in most of the countries is increasing every year. And by 2060 in Spain, we will be at an average age of 51, right? Italy also will be there more or less. Germany the same, right? So this is a big problem that we're facing on a global scale, but this is particularly true in Europe, right? So all of this has made countries, but also startups and multinational companies realize that there is actually a big business going on here, right? Because a lot of these people will be retiring in a few years. This will be a completely new population because in most of the cases, we're talking about people that have worked their entire life, right? So when they're retiring, they will have a pension and they will have a significant amount of money available for them, right? And at the same time, what's also happening is that most of these people that are retiring still have parents that they also need to take care of, right? Parents that are now turning 80, 90 years old in most of the countries. So that means that what's been slowly been creating is what we call a silver economy, right? Which is a very interesting market, because most of the marketing initiatives, and also if we talk about B2C in general, everything is mainly focused around millennials, right? And younger generations. But there's a very big and huge potential for what we call the silver population. Just to give you a few numbers, right? So there are more in Europe in general, there are more than 10 million potential customers in need of services to help them stay healthy at home, right? We're talking about a market value of 91 billion euros in the next couple of years. And furthermore, there's an annual growth rate, right? So every year there's a 17% increase in growth, right? Which means that every year 17% more people join this specific niche, right? Focused around the silver economy. And as you can see again on the slides, right? Spain, then followed by Italy, and then followed by Germany, is one of the leading countries in that sense, because Spain has the most aging population of Europe in general, right? So what are we doing at Quideo? Well, at Quideo, what we're basically creating is a marketplace to help families that are in need of assistance at home, to put them into contact with caregivers that we have in Spain in general. So we have a database right now of 100,000 caregivers in the entire area of Spain. And we're also now expanding to other countries which are facing similar problems, right? And what we're basically doing is we're putting families into contact with caregivers, then offering assistance, right, with several services and products. They're all connected into the cloud. So we're also gathering all that data to then help those people grow old at home, right? So our mission is basically to help senior citizens live safely and healthy at home, thanks to the use of technology. So you might be wondering, right? So what does a company like Quideo, right, in a niche that's so specific, what does a company like Quideo have to do with conversion rate optimization or with advanced marketing strategies? Well, what if I told you that of all those people, right, that are our potential customers, 87% of them visit the website through their mobile phone. 93% of them use WhatsApp for their daily communications, right? So, although we're talking about a silver economy, that doesn't mean that our customers aren't well aware of digital technologies, right? So, we're actually in a very specific industry where we have consumers both consuming traditional media like TV and radio ads, but at the same time, they're also heavily invested in digital technology, right? So, this gives us a very big challenge, right? In order to also make sure that we're increasing our business as quickly as possible. So just as a reminder as well, so we were also selected as one of the 15 startups to participate in Google for Startup Accelerator to also accelerate our solutions through Europe, right? So what's the current situation, and why are we then using conversion rate optimization, right? So currently, what we have is a very good situation for the brand, right? Because thanks to investing in radio and television, which are still heavily used by our target audience, we've been creating a very strong brand awareness. And at this point, our brand awareness is three times the general awareness for the industry, right? So as you can see here on Google Trends, these are the searches for Quideo versus, it's in Spanish, but home care solutions, right? So we are 3 times at the volume of the general search for home care solutions, right? And our brand awareness has increased by 160% in just a few years, right? So we have a lot of people going to our website. As I said before, most of them are coming through their mobile phones, right? So what are we doing? Well, we're trying to make sure that we're getting the maximum amount of those people by converting them into leads, right? So what's happening right now? Well, right now we're in a specific situation, and as many as of you are also aware, right? So in Europe we have a challenge right now, right? We have unfortunately, obviously, the war in Ukraine, which has affected most of the European countries, which has also stimulated an increase in inflation. So a lot of companies and also customers in all of the countries in Europe are suffering heavily, right? So people are also watching what they're spending, right? And they're controlling their spending habits a lot. So obviously, this is a challenge, but as Albert Einstein was also saying, right? So in every challenge, there's also an opportunity, right? So we started thinking of, how can we take the maximum advantage of all those people that already know the brand, that are already visiting our website, to make sure that we're getting the maximum amount of leads, right? So of all of the solutions that are currently available, right, obviously, we can do a lot, right? And obviously, I'm just going to mention ChatGPT, because right nowadays, if you do a marketing presentation, you don't mention ChatGPT, that's obviously a very bad sign, because you've been living under a rock. So obviously, we could invest in AI technologies, we could do podcasting, we can talk about influencing, social commerce, blockchain, etc., right? So all of the buzzwords that are very present nowadays in all the marketing communications. But what did we do? Well, we decided to think about pirates, right? And why did we start thinking about pirates? Well, basically because we wanted to focus on what is known as the pirate funnel, right? Or what is also known as the growth funnel, right? And why is it called a pirate funnel? Well, it's basically called a pirate funnel because it's been an evolving situation of the traditional marketing funnel, right? So in the traditional marketing funnel, you have basically 3 steps, right? So you have your awareness, you have your acquisition, and you have your sale, right? So people know your brand, they come to your website, and they buy, right? So that was the traditional marketing funnel that we followed throughout the years. However, the situation is changing, right? And nowadays, that's not enough, right? And nowadays, a lot of the other stuff is also happening if you go further down the funnel, right? So that's why, in marketing nowadays, we're following a new approach, which is called the growth funnel. We're also putting a lot of attention to what's happening after you activate or you make a sale, right? Because after you make a sale or you activate a specific lead, they can also become ambassadors, right? And they can also help you in your acquisition, right? So this is what we call the growth funnel. So as you can see, instead of just 3 steps, it's 6 steps, right? And they start with 3 A's and they end with 3 R's, right? So it's the AAARRR, right? So if you read that out loud, it's R, right? Which is what pirates are saying. So that's why it's called the pirate funnel. I know it's a bad joke, so it's not my joke. So don't hold me accountable, please, for the level of that joke. But in terms of the pirate funnel, so we have awareness, we have acquisition, right? So people knowing knowing your brand, coming to your website, then leaving their data, right? So they're leaving their contact data, then convert into customer, right? And what we then have is next steps that we can also implement. So in terms of revenue, right, trying to get more revenue out of those specific leads or clients that you've also already managed to capture. Repetition, right? Make sure that they order again, because if not, you always need to continuously acquire new customers, because if not, you're losing money. And also referral, right? Making sure that people convert into ambassadors and that your own clients get you more clients in the future, right? So it's basically what we're doing in the pirate funnel, right? And each of these different steps of the funnel obviously focus on one specific thing, right? So what did we focus on? Well, we focused on one specific area of this funnel, and we decided to focus on this one, right? On activation. And why on activation? Well, because if we can increase the activation, right, 5% versus increasing the awareness 5%, that's going to have a direct impact in our business, right? Because if you have people already coming to your website, if you already have people joining, right, checking out your website because they've seen your ads, and this is our situation, or they've seen you on television, right? You have traffic on your website, right? So you have people standing in front of your door, right? That it makes more sense to invest a lot of strategies, a lot of focus in making sure that they come through the door than it is, just showing up more on radio or television or ads in general, right? So this is a very big challenge in modern marketing, because nowadays not every company is focusing specifically on this specific phase, right? So we start focusing on this one, and obviously the main strategy that we're focusing on here is conversion rate optimization, or CRO, right? Again, I know, another abbreviation, right? Because in marketing our self-esteem is quite low, so we continuously need to invent new abbreviations so that we have a higher self-esteem, right? So yet another abbreviation to add to your list of marketing abbreviations. So apart from CPC, CPM, CPL, etc., right? So this also, it's also fun at parties, right? Because when I present myself, I'm, and if I'm saying, I'm the CMO of Quideo, I'm focusing on CRO to increase to decrease our CPL, right? So people just run away, right? Because I'm just talking in abbreviations all the time. So what's CRO, or conversion rate optimization? Well, some definitions say that conversion rate optimization is a set of strategies that just aim to increase the number of visitors, right, to websites. Just, strategies that you can implement to get more leads and more customers. But that's a very poor definition, because if that's your definition, right, so any potential change that you're doing to your website, even without knowing it, could be technically classified as CRO, right, conversion rate optimization. So I think a better definition is to focus on the active management, right? So CRO is, being conscious of, I'm going to check my website, I'm going to check my pages, I'm going to actively manage and implement solutions, hypotheses that I'm going to test to see if that's going to increase or decrease my leads, right? And if that's the case, well, then good job, right? Because that means I've found something that actually increases my leads, right? Of all the people that are already visiting, right, I'm going to get more people leaving their data, which in the end, is what we all want in marketing, right? And again, why is this so important? Well, because almost no companies nowadays are investing money in CRO, right? So we're investing a lot of money in ads, in marketing campaigns, in our case, right, in radio and television ads, right? So to bring in traffic, and we then send traffic to a homepage or to a landing page which has 100 call to actions, or to a page where we basically created for SEO purposes. So it's full of content, so it's very long to read, and people, they never arrive to the end of the page, which is where we have our form, or which is where we have our call to action, right? So we spend a lot of time bringing in traffic, but not that much time in actually converting that traffic, right, into paying customers. And these are data from the US, right? So in general, companies spend $92 bringing in traffic, and they're only spending $1 to actually convert it, right? So that's why we start with CRO, right? So if you want to start with conversion rate optimization, so what are the steps, right? Because if you search information online, there's a lot of information that you can find, a lot of things, that could potentially be implemented to increase your conversions. A lot of articles talking about, change your call to actions to another color, because that's going to increase. But, if you want to do it well, what are the steps? Well, let's check them out. So this is basically the 4-step procedure, the 4-step strategy that we follow at Quideo, and that has managed to bring in quite a bit of revenue. So what are the 4 steps? Well, the first one is research, right? Try to investigate, try to understand, what's happening, right? What's happening right now at your website? Do you know right now on your website, on your pages that bring in leads, where people are clicking, where they're scrolling, where they're looking for more information? Do you have that information? And if that's not the case, well, that's where we start, right? What we're going to do then is, use it as a starting point to see, what do we want to achieve, right? Because if we don't know at which percent our website is converting right now, well, how can we know how we're going to increase it? Or how can we know if we've reached success? Right? So that's our next step, defining the goals, right? What do we want to achieve? And what's the ideal conversion rate, right? So if 100 people visiting your website, what's the ideal number, right? Should it be 2%? Should it be 3%? Or is that way too much? And should it be just 1? Because right now you're at 0.4% of your traffic, right, converting. So that's the next one, right? Ambitious goals, obviously, but also realistic goals. And then once we have done those, then is the moment to start with our A/B testing. So a lot of companies, a lot of marketers, but also sometimes agencies, they're directly starting with A/B testing, right? So they're directly changing the color of a button or changing the title of a website to see if it converts more. But if we haven't done those first steps, if we haven't investigated, how we're actually doing right now and what we want to achieve, well, it's going to be difficult to actually see where we should focus, right? Because we can do a lot of A/B testing, and what happens with A/B testing is, it makes sense to do just one A/B test on one page, right? But if you have different hypotheses, you can't be doing 3 different tests on on one page, because you're going to interfere with the rest of the results of the other tests that you're doing, right? So in the best case scenario, we can only do 1 test per page. So we need to make sure that we're doing the most effective one first, right? Because if not, we're just losing time, right? And the last one is analysis, right? And this is also a very important one, to continuously analyze, if we've done an A/B testing. So we've created 2 different versions, right, of a website, and we've done that A/B testing, how is actually, what is actually the best one. And if we implement that best one, that best possible solution, um, you know, is that also really in the end bringing in more traffic, or was it just due to luck, right? Because we were just testing, and at the same time we did a specific campaign, and that's what brought in a lot more traffic. And right at that time, we had our beat testing, and that just by causality just brought in a bit more traffic, but it wasn't directly correlated, right? So that's also very important, to continuously analyze your strategies, right? So let's just focus on the first one. So in terms of research, right? So the first one, obviously, the holy grail to conversion rate optimization is obviously having Google Tag Manager or similar, right, installed and working, because the advantage of Google Tag Manager is that you can just install your CRO tracking tool in Google Tag Manager, and with that you can implement it on any page, right? So you don't have to lose time doing it manually. You just implement the container, just have that running on your entire website, have it loaded at the beginning, right when the website is loading, because you obviously want your A/B testing to load as quickly as possible. Sometimes what's happening is people tend to defer their loading of the specific CRO container to a later stage, right? So what happens then? Well, people visit your website, right? So they start scrolling, they start filling in data, and then 1 minute later, the page refreshes, because it has identified that you are the B side of the test, right? So you need to see the B side. So if you're not loading your A/B test quickly enough, you might get mixed results, because people would have already been scrolling through the website, and you still haven't loaded your B side of the test, right? So make sure that you're loading your CRO tool as quickly as possible by prioritizing it in Google Tag Manager. Also, if you're using cache plugins, right, that defer the loading, or if if you're using JavaScript strategies to defer the loading, test it to make sure that it doesn't affect your CRO tool, because if not, that's going to affect results, right? So a few tools that you can use to do A/B testing to do research from a quantitative perspective, right? So just to get the numbers, right, to understand, of all the people that visit one specific page, how many of them are clicking? How many of them are clicking on that button? How many of them are reading the entire text? How many of them are clicking on the slider, right? So a few tools that you can use for that. Freemium tools, Hotjar, CrazyEgg, right? Very interesting tools. They have a free version that can get you along the way, right? And that can give you data as quickly as possible, so you don't depend on a technical team. These are very straightforward to install. You just need to install the container in Google Tag Manager and have that up and running in a matter of minutes, right? And then you can actually start seeing results as quickly as possible, right? And you have premium tools such as PageSense, for instance, which is the one that we're using to get those quantitative data, right? So in the ideal scenario, right, what you should be seeing is something like this, right? So typical heat map, right, of people, so identifying where people are clicking, how many clicks you're getting, where people are clicking less, if they're also clicking on titles or not, right? And actually understanding, from a numerical point of view, from a quantitative point of view, what's really happening on your website, right? So once you have that, you have a very good starting point from a quantitative point of view, right? But again, and as always, right, numbers don't tell everything. So also always makes sense to also complement that with qualitative research, right? So try to also, if you have current customers, if you have current clients, use them as well, right? To learn more about potential strategies that you can implement. Ask them, how was the website experience? Was all the information easily available or not? What did you miss before talking to your sales team, or before buying, right, or adding a specific product or service to your shopping cart, right? Most of the times, your customers, your clients, your current clients will be more than happy to answer these questions. So we actually have a monthly survey sent out to our customers, right? And it's obviously completely optional to answer, right? But what we're doing is we're gathering data from our existing customers, right? And most of the times, if you have existing customers, they're already hooked into your product, right? So they're always willing to share information. And in our case, we're getting very valuable information. So we're combining options that you can see here on screen, so right, so multiple selection options with open questions, right? And specifically in the open questions, you get a lot of useful information that you can then also use to check your hypothesis when you're doing A/B testing. Because again, numbers don't tell everything, right? Because numbers just tell you where people stop, where they click, where they're scrolling, right? But they don't tell you the reasoning behind everything that people are doing when they visit your website, right? So try to also always send out a questionnaire or survey to your existing customers to also get that information, right? And again, you can do this very easily, very straightforward by using Google Forms, by using SurveyMonkey, right? They're free to use, and you can also have them set up in a matter of minutes, right? And that way you're also gathering information from your customers, right? And if you limit it to like 5 questions a month, right, but just very specific questions, just to test hypotheses that you have, let's discover, you can discover how much valuable information you're getting just from that, right? And once we have that information, so once we have that quantitative and qualitative information, we have a good starting point to actually see, what we want to prioritize, right? Because if we want to do A/B testing, there's a lot of stuff that we can do, from just changing colors to completely showing a brand new landing page, right, to people, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do, and obviously, we want to focus on what's most important, right? So what's most important obviously comes from the quantitative and qualitative research, right? But it also goes into line with identifying your goals, right? So what do I want to reach? What's the ideal conversion, right, that I want to reach? And obviously, one thing to keep in mind is that it heavily depends on the industry. We have a few industries here on screen. I also have the link here to the specific scientific article, because this is a scientific article that was published by Dorig in 2020, right, where they investigated worldwide the conversion rate of different businesses, right? So as you can see, there's a different threshold into what's the minimum acceptable conversion rate when we're talking about e-commerce, which is 1.84%, versus financing, right, which would be around 5%, right? Because people are much more qualified if they're looking for finance solutions, right? So depending on the industry, there's a different conversion rate, right? And you can check this also out for your specific industry and for your country, right? To also see, what's the ideal minimum acceptable conversion rate, right? And if we see that we're below that number, well, obviously, our first goal is to reach that minimum conversion rate, right? And then also see, how can we further implement and increase and improve our conversion rate further, right? There's also another thing to take into account, obviously, and that's the channel, right? So the conversion rate obviously also depends heavily on the channel, right? And again, if we do a good analysis, this should also come up, right? So always try to also measure not just the conversion rate of a page in particular, but also, the conversion rate of a page in particular by also taking into account the specific channel, right? Because if you send traffic to a landing page or to a website that comes from display advertising, well, that's obviously normally going to convert at a lower percentage than direct traffic or referral traffic, right? Or social traffic or paid traffic, right? Because display has a specific objective, which is creating awareness, but not necessarily increasing the conversions, right? So depending on your channel, also check that out, right? And always, if you have like a general conversion rate of 2% on a specific page, try to go to your Google Analytics and try to investigate, how much, could we attribute to display, how much could we attribute to direct traffic, to see, where your points of improvement are, right? Because you might be doing very well in paid in paid traffic converting, or in direct traffic converting, but perhaps your your paid social traffic isn't converting that well, right? So it also depends a bit on the channel to see, what should we be prioritizing, right? And obviously, as you all know, every channel has its specifics. Every channel has obviously also its marketing goal, right? So obviously, what people expect when they click on a link and arrive at your website heavily also depends on the channel, right? On the strategies that you're following. So in some cases, it even makes sense to have specific to have specific landing pages from traffic just coming in through social or paid social links versus direct traffic, right? So this is also something to take into account. Again, these are data from the study that Doric did in 2020, but again, you can find these data as well for your specific country to also see, what the ideal conversion rate should be. And that brings us to our third step, which is basically the A/B testing by itself, right? So A/B testing, again, don't directly start A/B testing without first doing your quantitative and qualitative research, right? And also defining your goals, right? Obviously, realistic goals. And once you have that, you can start your A/B testing, right? So once you start your A/B testing, well, there are a few tools that you can use, right? So now that Google Optimize has been decreasing because Google publicly announced that they're no longer going to support Google Optimize, right? So the new big player on the block is VWO, right, which is one of the biggest international players in terms of A/B testing, which has a free version that is actually quite good. You can also use Crazyag, or you can go to premium tools directly, such as PageSense again, right? So A/B testing makes a lot of sense, right? So what we're doing in A/B testing is we're creating two different versions, right? And depending on the audience, we're going to show a different version to that specific audience. However, if we're doing A/B testing, take into account that A/B testing makes sense if you have around 1,000 conversions per month, right? So people actually, visiting and leaving their data or calling or buying from your website. If you have less than that, A/B testing most of the times isn't going to work that well. And why is that? Well, because you need quite a bit of volume when you're doing A/B testing, right? Because you don't want to take decisions, specifically if it's very strategic decisions, just based on a small amount of people converting, right? Or a small amount of people visiting the website, right? You want to have at least some volume to make justified conclusions, right? So if you have less than 1,000 conversions a month, more or less, right? Obviously, don't take this as the per se threshold, but you have to have a certain amount of conversions per month. If not, doing A/B testing doesn't make so much sense because you're going to be spending too much time. It makes more sense to do qualitative research, right? And to see how you can first get more volume before you're actually starting to do A/B testing, right? So when you do A/B testing, right, you have these tools, you set up two different types of versions, right, and you leave them running, right? So what's very important when you're doing A/B testing is the analysis, right? And actually, the main challenge when we're doing CRO and when we're doing A/B testing is not, everything that we've seen so far. So doing the research, setting up the goals, setting up the A/B testing, because it's all pretty straightforward. The most important the thing to take into account is the analysis, right? So actually, what are we gathering from the results? And it's very easy to take wrong decisions based on data, right? So just to give you an example here again, because at the beginning of my speech, I told you that we were going to talk about pirates. So again, right? So this is a graph of the global temperature worldwide since 1820 versus the number of pirates, right? So what are we seeing? Well, as the temperature is increasing, the pirates are decreasing, right? So there's a correlation between the number of pirates and the average temperature, right? So we might be, you might take a conclusion from this and say, okay, great. So, it's global warming that has caused the disappearance of pirates. However, that's not the case, right? Correlation does not mean causation, right? So it doesn't mean that, just because two metrics are increasing or one is increasing and the other one is decreasing, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily related between each other, right? So this is something very important because sometimes, we're seeing an increase in our B test, right? But it's just because you have more traffic that day on your website, right? It doesn't mean causation, right? So before starting with your A/B testing, it also always makes sense to first do an AA test, right? Which means that we're going to use the same website or the same page, right? So instead of using an A/B test where the B version is a different version, we're going to do the AA test, right? And half of the people will see version A, and the other half will also see version A, right? So you might be saying, why would we do that? Why would that make sense? Well, because you don't want any difference between those two, right? They should correlate exactly at the same level. If that's not the case, you have a big problem, because something is happening on your website which is causing more people to convert in the first version, A version, versus the second A version. And that shouldn't be happening, right? So in order to delete causation, always also test an AA version, right? Where you show the exact same page to half of your visitors, right? They should be converting at the same level. If that's not the case, you have a very big problem. Don't continue with your A/B testing, because you have a big problem that you need to solve first, right? So as I said before, right, to do a good A/B test, it makes sense to have data up and running quite some time, right? Here on the screen, you can see a result. Well, it's in Spanish because it's of a test that we did, that we had 124 days on the website, where we managed to get 31,000 visits, right, and more than 1,400 and 1,300 conversions between the two versions, right? So just to show you why it's important, to have those tests up and running. And as you can see here on screen, there's a gray bar here, and it's saying, this result, this experiment is non-concluent, right? So there's no conclusion here, right? And this experiment has been going on for 124 days already, right? So sometimes what we're seeing is, there's mainly no difference, right? And the difference need to be significant. What we see on screen is a difference of 8.88% versus 8.64%. So we might be saying, based on the numbers only, well, the original version, right, makes more sense, right? But, however, this difference is not significant from a statistical point of view. And, most of the A/B testing tools will tell you this, because they will automatically calculate it. And if not, you have solutions online as well to check, to actually check if a result is significantly different, right? If there's mathematical significance, then you can be sure it's correct, right? But don't just focus on the bare numbers, right? Always check for mathematical significance, right? And again, most of the tools do this for you. If not, there are free tools that you can use online. You just need to type in your number of visits and your conversions of the two versions, and then the tool, there are many online available, will tell you if it's significant or not. If it's not significant, don't, pause it immediately and go to your next hypothesis to test it, right? And how could we avoid becoming a very aged pirate, right? Which is not something that we want, because when we're following the pirate metrics, we want to be, we don't want to age that quickly. However, in our case, that wouldn't be a problem, because at Quideo we could also provide services, obviously, to this aged pirate. But from a marketing point of view, this doesn't make sense, right? So as a general rule of thumb, an A/B test is successful if you at least achieve 200 conversions, 40% implementations, right, and a 95% statistical confidence. If that's not the case, if you can't say with 95% confidence that there's a statistical significance, right, between the two versions, don't implement it, because it's just going to be based on correlation but not causation, right? So always make sure that you have at least these three met, right? So the number of conversions, the implementation, and also the statistical confidence, right? So all of this is just some information of what we've implemented right now. You might be wondering, right? So all great, I understood it. No, this is perfect. But what are some quick wins, right? What are things that we can implement right now? Well, let's just give you 5 examples of things that we tried and tested that were based on actual evidence, right? So we actually started to investigate heavily everything related with conversion rate optimization, right? So we had a look at different scientific studies, and we read 100 of them on CRO. So there's a lot of scientific evidence in terms of CRO, very interesting articles that you can read about. And we selected 16 that we thought that would give us the biggest impact in terms of our conversion rate optimization. And we found that 5 worked extremely well. And we also applied them to our business, and also wanted to share them with you right now, just to go over them and see if it inspires you to also take up the conversion rate optimization strategies at your current company, right? So first one that we investigated, that we focused on, were rounded prices, right? So what did we see? Well, contrary to popular belief, rounded prices don't always work better, right? So if you have a product or service that sells at 200 euros, right, that doesn't necessarily convert better than if you have that same product or service that is costing 202 euros, or if it's even costing 202.50 euros, right? So in e-commerce solutions, this is very straightforward. But in B2B solutions, when we're talking about services, when we're talking about house sales, etc., that's not always the case, right? So what did we see? Well, if or what are the studies saying, basically? So studies are saying that if you have a specific price, people will convert better, right? And why is that? Well, because customers will be negotiating less. And why is that? Well, basically because of 2 reasons, right? The first one is because if people tell us a price, that's going to be our anchor, right? So we're going to focus on that specific price. So if they tell us something costs 202.5 euros, we're going to talk about that, right? And we're going to have that price in mind, right? And if we're going to negotiate a discount, right, or if we want to see a discount, what we're going to negotiate is those 2.5 euros, right? And mentally have something like, okay, great, if I get it for 200, I'm getting a great deal, right? However, if you start with 200, if 200 is your starting price, and people want to get a discount, you'll have to at least give them a discount of 5 euros or 10 euros, right? Because if not, they won't see it as a discount. Second one, because if there's a specific price, people assume that you have done specific calculations to get to that price, right? Because 202.50 euros. I mean, to get to that price, you must have done specific calculations, right? It's not just a number that you completely invented, right? So if you want some further information about this, I'm leaving the exact source of the scientific text here, right? It's a study from 2016. We actually did this, so we increased our monthly fee. So people, when they contact us, we pay them. They have to pay us a monthly fee, right? It was 80 euros, like that, and we increased that to 84.89 euros, right? And we had a 100% acceptation rate for existing and for new clients, right? Another one. Your product can sell more expensive if you offer a trial period, right? So if you have a high quality product, and this is important, this is the caveat to take into account, right? So if you have a high quality product and you provide a free sample or a trial, that's going to have a positive impact in your conversions, right? And in your sales. And why is that? Well, we're going to see right now, right? But the thing is, you have to put a specific time limit on that free sample, right? So the first 3 episodes, or just 10 days, right? Because if not, it's going to backfire, right? And why is this? Well, free samples will allow us to do an assessment, right? To check out the product without too much risk. And when the product is of high quality, that's going to positively impact, right? Because people are going to be heavily invested in using the product. They're going to see it's high quality, so they're going to stick with it, right? And this is basically the strategy of a lot of the tools, for instance, in A/B testing, right? So we have freemium tools, right? So they have free options that you can use, that you can heavily invest in your energy in the tool, see all the value it offers, and then automatically change to the paid version, right? However, this is going to backfire when we have a low quality product, right? So if you have a low quality product, or if the perception of people in your qualitative research is that it's not perceived of high quality, don't offer a free trial, because it's going to be completely backfiring against you, right? We also did this. So we did a free trial for one of our products, for Video Assist, 1 month, completely free to use. A lot of people did it, right? So they went for the free trial, and we had a 47% increase in leads, right? Because you don't have that first step where you're immediately asking people to pay. It's the same thing with test drives, right? If you want to buy a new car, the first thing is a test drive. You get the car during the weekend, you see how much value it's offering, and it's going to be more difficult to decline the offer of then purchasing the car, right? So again, you have the study here. It's from 2019 if you want some more information. Then another one that we also found very interesting is emotional ads, right? So if you do emotional ads, so if you do emotional campaigns, so focusing heavily on the emotions, not just on the functional benefits, but of, how, from a consumer point of view, how will buying this product or service make me feel, right? How, is it going to change my, my status, or or my personal beliefs, or how is it going to reduce my stress? How am I going to gain more time by buying your product or service? If you can show this in an ad, and instead of just focusing on the functional benefits, right? It's, you can go quicker, or you're going to I don't know, get, healthy food or something like that, right? So instead of just focusing on the functional benefits, try to go a step higher, right? Focus on the emotional part, and that's going to have a very big impact in brand searches. People investing time to search for the brand, right? And if you have brand searches, you have business, right? Because you stop competing for generic keywords or for generic searches. You have people directly coming to your website because they've seen something that they like, right? And you can do this obviously in television ads, but also just paid social ads, right? So try to also focus on the emotional aspect of, your potential customers, right? Um, uh, However, if you have a lower priced or lower quality product, it's more important to focus on the informational benefits, right? Because that's not going to work if, if you have like a very cheap product, or if you're in the fast moving consumer goods industry, right? Prices are going to be quite low, so people are going to compare a lot. So you need to focus on functional benefits. But if you have a higher priced product or service, try to also focus on that, right? So we changed our campaigns from being very functional to being very emotional. We also saw a 13% increase in organic traffic, so just people searching for the brands, right? And then the last one is retargeting. So retargeting also has a very good impact, right? Because we've obviously all been victim to retargeting strategies, right? So what do the scientific studies say? Well, retargeting works best between 1 to 3 days, right? And why is that? Well, um, that's the ideal window of opportunity to do retargeting according to scientific studies, right? And we also checked this with our strategies, and we also found similar results. And why is that? Well, basically, if people stop visiting your website, it's because something came up, right? They've stopped visiting your website, because they were doing their lunch break. The lunch break is over. They have to start working again, right? So, they don't have time right now, or something else came up. So if that happens, and if you immediately retarget, that will start to annoy people, right? Because they've stopped for some reason, right? So don't retarget them immediately. So what's the ideal window of opportunity? Between 1 to 3 days, right? And why is that? Well, if you do it later than 3 days, people might have forgotten about the product, or they won't be that hot as a lead anymore, right? Because they're not so invested anymore, right? If you can postpone a specific search or service or product for more than 3 days, it's not so urgent, right? So again, you have the study here. So it's a study from October 2020, so relatively recent as well. We also did this, so we changed our retargeting, right? So to after 48 hours, because of the specific niche that we're in, right? So people need to consult the if they leave their data, right, or if they visit the website, they need to consult that with their family members, because in our case, people are taking a very important decision, right? So if we're retargeting directly, we're annoying people, right? So we changed it to 48 hours. We did a lot of different tests, but when we changed it to 48 hours, and we also capped it, right? So we always want to cap your retargeting, to not retarget the same person 6 different times, right? So we capped it at three times, and we saw an 8% increase in leads as well, right? And then the last one, just to finish, and with that, we're also finishing the presentation. So the higher your discount, the worse your sales will go, right? And again, this again might seem a bit more counterintuitive, right? Because obviously, the higher your discount, I mean, more people will buy, right? And technically, that's true. But what are studies saying? Well, aggressive discounts of more than 50% reduce the perception of quality, right? And from a 60% discount, it completely plummets, right? So obviously, discounts are a great tool to increase leads, to increase conversions, but always be aware that, if you're offering a too high of a discount, that's going to completely backfire, right? So, and why is that? Well, be based on studies. This is from 2018. So price is a key signal, right? That we use indirectly to judge the quality, right? Even if we're a high target product or service, price is going to be there, obviously, right? And we're also going to judge the quality of the product based on the price, right? And there's another one as well. When we offer a discount, what we're basically telling people is, we've been making a big profit, right? Because we're able to show you and sell you the same product and service at a 30% discount, and we're still making money, right? So the higher your discount, watch out because it might be backfiring, right? For instance, in our case, we also did a test, right? So we tried to test it, right? Because we like testing a lot. So we did an A/B test where we offered 50% discounts, then we offered 30%, then we offered 10% discounts, right? And we saw an increase in sales. In the case of the 50% discount in the registration fee, we saw a 3% increase in sales, right? But this was not significant, right? From a mathematical point of view, it was not significant, and it makes sense because in our industry, people, if you're in the service industry, offering discounts doesn't work very well because it backfires, right? Because if you offer services, you don't want to offer discounts because that might indirectly give people the sensation that your quality is going to be less, right? So we completely stopped offering discounts, and it had no impact whatsoever on our sales, right? So with that, just wanted to give you a quick overview, right, of the specific niche that we're in, how to set up your conversion rate optimization strategies, right, and also some 5 specific strategies that we implemented at Quideo and that made us increase our conversion rate. And in the end, we managed to get 30 million in revenue, thanks in part to all these strategies, and we're now on the road to end the year with 60 million in terms of the volume that we're currently at, right? And big part of that is because we're getting much more leads at a higher quality because we're implementing conversion rate optimization strategies. So that's all from my side. Thanks for joining me. Have a great time here at the conference, still today and tomorrow. And any questions or doubts, feel free to use the chat or to reach out. You have my email here on screen as well, and also reach out on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Again, thanks very much and have a great day.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for that, Michiel. So Q&A section is open. We're going to try to keep it brief as we run on tight time, but we've got time for a few. Just a really interesting kind of discussion. It was interesting to me, especially the point you made around like how discounts weren't really impacting your sales at all. I'm curious, like how deep into the scaling process were you? Do you feel like it would have helped at a smaller size, or do you feel it's like irrelevant at any stage of growth?
Well, in our industry, which is the services industry, right? We did a lot of testing, and we did it at different stages of our sales process as well. But as I said before, it depends. It has a very big impact on the perceived quality of the service, right? So if you're saying, you have a caregiver coming to your house, checking how you are, but you can get it at a 30% discount. Indirectly, what people are saying is, if that person is going to come, right, they're going to pay that person 30% less, or if not, they're making a lot of profit. So in both ways, it's negative, right? So that's why we saw, if we did the 50% reduction in the registration, there was mainly no increase in sales.
Got it. Yeah. So I think the fair point to make there is like it's a perception of the product as well, right? Like very different what you're selling there. A service where people are going to care, right? They're willing to pay the extra because there is a perceived point that if I go cheap, maybe my loved one isn't looked after properly.
Yeah,
So
completely.
interesting one there. So I noticed we've got a few coming through from Kate. By the way, just a reminder to people, our Knowledge Partners Packet Company, they are giving away free ebooks. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning, make sure you get those questions in. Make sure you rate the sessions and make sure you leave comments. It gives you a chance to win us ebooks. And it looks like Kate, she's been busy today. She's definitely in with a chance there. She asks one question: with Google Optimize being discontinued soon, what A/B testing tools would you recommend using?
Yeah, so there's a very interesting one which is called VWO, which is now the new kid on the block. Well, they've been around for quite some time already, but they're now taking over the lead a bit after Google Optimize has decided to discontinue its service. So it's a recommendable one. It's also a freemium option, so you can get a free test there and check how the tool works. And yeah, this is the one that we're also now looking at to implement ourselves.
Awesome. Well, I think we are a little bit tight for time here. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit longer, but I'll just put it up on the screen again for everyone if they do. Oh, whoopsie, you put it down. But anyway, they have your contact details. It's there in the recording. Yep. Reach out to him. I'm sure Michiel is more than willing to talk with you in DMs through more details. Be sure to do that. But absolute pleasure to have you on, my friend. And hopefully we'll see more of you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
This is all we got. Remember the revolution in our minds. This is all we got.
Lock me out of this life institution. I am angry and high on illusions. Yes, I hate, but it's not a solution. Try my best, but I'm